that unlike them, doesn't play a whole lot of these engage type supports. He's more into like Lulu, Janna, Karma from what we've been able to see. And there it is locked on that side. So it's actually really interesting how we've been talking about USC being more of a kiting team, and then they pick up Sejuani and Maokai as their engage. The answer, though, I like the Jarvan and I like the Gnar. Gnar is very good into Maokai. He's got the range, he's got the percent max health damage. Jarvan also great engage, really tanky, even though he just got hit with armor nerfs in the early bits of the game.
Yeah, armor not going to be too much of a problem. The early clear, as long as I've talked to some coaches from these teams, and they say Jarvan's still in an okay spot. As long as you're not trying to do an early Raptor camp, then you're not going to suffer too much in your early jungle because of those armor nerfs. And honestly, at least in this game, the matchup with a Sejuani, Maokai, and the Janna just being a shield champion, the armor early is not going to be a super big issue because most of that's going to be magic damage.
Right. And now we're into the second phase of bans here. We see Orianna coming out. I was actually writing that down earlier today. Orianna is a popular champion between these two mid laners, and every time she comes up, I like to say she's safe. She's good at attack, at defense, got good crowd control, and is a safe laner. It's always going to be a pick, whether the meta supports it or not, quote unquote.
Yeah, and just to give another rundown, we're into the last pick phase now, as the 5 bans for Arizona State are going to be that Varus, Tristana, Braum, Xayah, and then Corki being the last ban there, with the 5 bans for USC being Ornn, Kassadin, Lulu, Orianna, and then, of course, Rakan.
I like it. I like that Arizona State is trying to pick off the AD carry role. That 3.5 out of 5 bans are targeted specifically at Wig 5, but they left up one of the most powerful, most popular picks in Kog'Maw.
Yes, and it does come through the Kog'Maw with a lot of potential to carry the late game here. You can see Janna, one of the best champions in the entire League of Legends at peeling a late game carry, especially a Kog'Maw that can be buffed up with the Ardent Sensor, with the shields, additional damage. Despite the nerfs on his W, the Bio-Arcane Barrage, he's having less % health damage in those later ranks as well. It's a significant reduction in his late game damage output against tanks, but if you're looking at the Galio here, he's not going to be building that much tank. It's going to take a while before Jarvan is tanky enough to deal with that kind of damage. And then Gnar, of course, is hopefully only ever going to be in range to take damage from a Kog'Maw if Kog'Maw's also going to be in danger of being jumped on by the Gnar here. And it does seem like the last champions are locked in here. Talk to me about these team compositions, Ben. I want to know what you think about whether or not Arizona State, I'm guessing I know the answer, whether or not they got the engage potential they'd like to get.
They have a lot of it. Jarvan, Alistar, Galio, and Gnar are all amazing initiators, especially once you hit that level 6 mark. Gnar is nearly unrivaled in his potential to ruin a team fight, especially with the combo of Jarvan's Cataclysm, seeing those two ults literally together while Galio jumps in on Jarvan's ult.
Yes.
The cataclysmic power that team fight has, there is no way to just disengage with that without burning all of your flashes or a perfectly timed Janna Monsoon. And I think they do indeed have that engage. But now, one thing I do want to talk about on the side of USC is Nevermind's favorite champion, Lissandra. Not a popular pick right now, but one of his staples. What do you think about that?
Lissandra's good here. I like that she can counter some engage. Imagine if Jarvan does get a good Cataclysm. You know that you can expect Galio to follow up on that. There's not much you can do about that unless you're in range to actually crowd control him, which Lissandra's very good at doing. But you're probably not wanting to pick melee fights 1v1 in that. Just simply that you're going to have a magic damage shield that regenerates over time, or refreshes over time, I should say, on the Galio, meaning Lissandra is not going to be able to, unless terribly ahead, she's not going to be able to win the 1v1 as the game gets later. So you're not going to actually want to be standing near like melee range to be able to flash crowd control Galio as he channels his heroic entrance, but you know that as soon as he lands on top of a Cataclysm, that Gnar is going to be trying to follow that. He's going to be TPing in, he's going to be looking to get a Mega Gnar and join the fray. But he can be crowd controlled on his telegraphed entrances. You know that as soon as he jumps forward, he's likely to either flash or at least jump into the middle of the fray and then use his Gnar ultimate, the Mega Gnar ultimate, to follow up that kind of level of engage from the Jarvan, from the Galio. And if that's the case, Lissandra's the perfect choice for making sure that you lock him down, burst him out before he can actually apply his crowd control. And you do actually have the damage here. If Gnar's ever going to have any presence in the side lane to push out a Maokai, he's going to have at least a damage item and maybe a half, right? You know,
right.
Something to the effect of Black Cleaver and maybe the Frozen Mallet,
That's
both of which are those
build.
health damage-esque type items. If he has both of those, you know he doesn't have a ton of resists. Meaning, if there's an Ardent Sensor buffed up 6-stack on your Rage Blade late game Kog'Maw, you know that the crowd control that will keep him in place, keep the Gnar in place from a Lissandra, that's definitely going to be enough time for a Kog'Maw to burst down that.
And 2 words specifically that you said are USC's ultimate saving grace. Late game. Look at this. Super high scaling on Maokai. A lot of hit points. A lot of crowd control. Then you have Sejuani. A lot of hit points. A lot of crowd control. You have Kog'Maw. Massive amounts of damage and range. Janus shields with the Ardent Sensor. The longer this game goes, the better it looks for USC.
Yes. The one caveat being that all, if not most, I want to say essentially all of their damage, consistent damage, is going to be just the Kog'Maw.
Yeah.
You say, wait, Superman, they've got Lissandra. Isn't she a AP burst mage? Yes, but the way they've built this composition is to safely keep Kog'Maw alive, meaning this Lissandra's not going to be flashing onto the backline and trying to burst down an Ezreal. Her job is to crowd control the front line, deal enough magic damage to make them have to build some magic resist perhaps, but mostly keep the Kog'Maw safe. And if that's the way they play these fights, Lissandra's not the damage threat that you might want her to be if you are trying to do anything other than keep the Kog'Maw alive into the late game. It's the Jugger Cog, but instead of having additional buffs from like a Karma mid or something like that, you're having somebody who can just be a body in the way because you don't have the Galio and the Jarvan and the Gnar. Instead, you have Sejuani, you have Maokai, who are very strong at starting the fights, but once they start the fights, there's some distance between them and the Kog'Maw. Who's going to fill that buffer zone? It's going to be that Lissandra.
Right, exactly. And then exactly what you described is what we were talking about. USC wants to kite. They want to disengage. They want to be able to rebuttal any sort of engage that Arizona State likes to have going for them.
And it will be the Janna that's the key to making that happen, honestly.
Oh, for sure.
I've talked about how Lissandra's going to do a lot for peeling for the Kog'Maw, but honestly, it's going to be the Janna that makes most of that happen. She is the queen of disengage. You know, if you've been around the League of Legends community a while, you know that video, always be Janna, right? You know, that video, the way to win every game of League of Legends. But here we are on to Summoner's Rift. This is, once again, on red side, we've got University of Southern Carolina taking on Arizona State University. It's the Trojans versus
the Sun Devils.
Yes, indeed. And they here are on to Summoner's Rift. It's a best-of-3 matchup, so it's not just a one-and-done fight. We'll see who can take win one. As you can see, pretty standard starts here across the map. No crazy invades, no 5-man stacks.
No, and so it's interesting that they started with a long time ago, they used what was called the fan. The battle fan is what they talked about, where you positioned everyone in that straight line along the river. That's gone away since the changes to the jungle have happened. You know, real leashes, real engages, and real opportunities to really get ahead with a good invade. And we saw 4 out of the 5 members of USC hovering around this blue buff for a while. I think that's really smart because of the engage. Even with level 1, Galio with the Justice Punch, Alistar with his Flash Q, just so much could ruin that jungle start there. And so I liked the starts. Nothing has gone crazy, and that's exactly what these teams both want right now.
Yeah, and so it will seem to be that ASU is going to want to push their advantage down here. Ezreal should have push priority over the Janna Kog'Maw, unless Janna's going to use a ton of her own auto attacks and a lot of her own spells to push that wave, because she's going to do a lot more AoE to a wave with non-key spells than Alistar would. But with that in mind, you're going to have hopefully a push and the push priority here from the Ezreal, meaning that they can keep the pressure in the bottom lane, opening the map up for Jarvan to put his pressure on solo lanes. But that'll require a lot of vision down here on the bottom side. Ezreal and Alistar, if they're going to keep pushed up like you see them doing, as soon as they know that the first rotation is done and that Sejuani could be anywhere, they're going to want to have at least vision in the river so that they don't get ganked, because there is a lot of damage that can happen from even just these early levels of a Kog'Maw. If he gets his Sejuani to show up and Janna to help lock people down, he can 100 to 0 people.
Yeah, and that's the best thing about Kog'Maw. You start leveling that % max health damage. You just want to shred the hit points. That is the goal with Kog'Maw, and you want your Janna to be able to shield and disengage so you don't even have to move because your attack speed is so high, it's harder to do that input buffering. And so if Sejuani is able to get down there, get the stun from the permafrost, maybe even the ultimate later on in the game, that's exactly what you want from your Kog'Maw.
What I want to see is this Janna playing a little bit more aggressively. She's got the coin for a lot of mana sustain, which means I want to see her maxing that W in the lane, looking to trade. You can see her putting the shield on. There's the W from the Kog'Maw. Arcane Barrage buffs his auto attacks and gives him that bonus range. It's kind of unfortunate to see him using the spell and then backing off. You want to see him being a little bit more aggressive with that. Of course, we are now level 3 in the bottom lane, meaning Alistar can engage on you, and a lot of crowd control. Ezreal, though, not the best at following up that level of engage from an Alistar, simply because most of his damage comes from line skill shots that can be blocked by minions.
Yeah.
So if he's far back farming, Alistar gets what would normally be a good engage. There's not enough potential for an Ezreal, instead of like a Caitlyn perhaps, to just instantly follow up with their own forms of damage and crowd control. There's not any crowd control from Ezreal, and his damage can be somewhat mitigated by just a minion wave being there.
So now, interesting things that we can talk about here, the new Keystones. I know that it's been a month or two since the Keystones came out, the new rune system and everything, but I still think it's interesting to talk about
We
the
do have
choices.
a fight in mid lane, though. It looks like Lissandra might be getting out for free. The flash comes through. That's an
Jarvan.
ignite.
The ignite is down to flash forward, and Beko takes first blood.
Yeah, really nicely timed gank there. It was the Lissandra pushed slightly up, and Jarvan was able to play around the vision. You could see Lissandra did have a ward in the top side, but it didn't catch Jarvan sneaking around into that bottom side and coming through the brush there as she was playing to, honestly, her blind side. A little bit of a mistake there for Lissandra to play forward and not play towards the side that she did have vision of, and Jarvan was able to get a nice gank off there.
And that's the reason you pick the Jarvan. His range of engage is so good, and the fact that he slows with his W, that Golden Aegis, it's just so massive. The cooldowns on his E and Q are also really, really low. It's one of my favorite things about Jarvan is how often you can really get in there and do those combos.
Yeah, so we'll get a quick replay of how that first blood happened. Here it is. You can see the nice engage there from the Galio, and then the flash comes through a little bit late. It does save her from being knocked up, but there was enough damage that came through. The ignite's really strong. You can see the full damage Galio doing enough there. And of course, the last auto attack with the flash there for the Jarvan. Really well played, and that's going to be first blood on Jarvan, giving him a little bit of a boost in that jungle. Hopefully he can translate that into more early pressure. We talked about how bottom lane's going to have the extra pressure. You can see him hiding in the bush, looking for a gank, because he does engage in the bottom lane. And it looks like, yes.
They're going to fight, and another kill. Breezy picking that one up with the assistance of his AD carry and jungler. You know, this is what we expected to see. Arizona State engaging, getting the Jarvan, getting into the fights, and Kog'Maw even burned both of his summoner spells. And then if we look, Alistar did burn the Ignite and the Flash, but Jarvan didn't have a Flash, so it's 2 for 2 on the summoner spell trades.
Yeah, really well played. It would have been the last tick of Ignite there. That caught them off guard. It came through before the heal did. So we'll take a second look at how that played out. Here we go. You get the nice engage there by the Alistar, and that's going to be a nice disengage by the Janna, but then they play it forward. It's a little bit of a bait. You can see that Jarvan's hiding in the, going to step up towards the bush. That was the first little engage there. Wait for those cooldowns to come back for Alistar. He's going to flash in for the combo. We'll see it happen in just a moment. There's the Jarvan. He gets a nice knockup, flash up. Good flash from the Kog'Maw, honestly, but that's going to be too much damage from the Ignite. The skill shots from Ezreal did land, and that's going to be the kill credit ends up going to the last tick of Ignite from the Alistar. But you can see really nice timing on the flash there from the Kog'Maw that ended up allowing him to live for a little bit longer, but there was just too much total damage despite him dodging a lot of that crowd control.
It's so much fun to watch those type of things, the coordination between these teams. And I think a lot of that setup is, look at the vision that they have there for Arizona State. All along the river, the entire river is littered with wards. And with that control ward there in that brush right at the edge, they knew that Jarvan was safe to come around through that way. He made it past the tri-brush down underneath the dragon, but they also knew that no one was coming on the other side. They were clear. Easy dive.
And now those second round of buffs are going to come through. That's going to be simple and quiet clears, it looks like, for these junglers. But with Jarvan having now a kill and an assist under his belt, he should have the early pressure to even start pressing that vision forward. Those pink wards have now come through for USC, knowing that the pressure's on that bottom side. I like their choice to bring a little bit more of their own investment into their own jungle vision. But this is what I want to see. Jarvan comes through.
Jarvan gets caught. Looks like they might have a scuffle in the jungle down there. But no, disengaged there. Jarvan is going to back off, and Sejuani is going to go ahead and hit back into the base. Clearing some vision here. We might... No, we don't see a dive, but instead we are going to jump into a quick pause.
Yeah, so I like this choice, though, by Jarvan and his crew to try and press that vision. It's like building a line of scrimmage. You know, we talk about how in like football and other traditional sports, you kind of know where the line of like the neutral zone, if you're a Star Trek fan. It's like, where can you go where you're kind of in trouble, but you're also kind of safe? And that's where these teams are trying to press their vision into to push that a little bit further forward, or at least control a little bit more of their own side of the map. So you can see that those pink wards started to come through for Arizona, or excuse me, for University of Southern Carolina, and you can see Jarvan's trying to clear that out. He's going to take a little bit of a poke. Sejuani's off to the side, but this might be a bait. Nope. Okay, so they're going to keep him a little bit safe. But I like the choice here to contest the vision. This shows you how far ahead Jarvan is. He has level 6 over the Sejuani, and he's able to push up the vision, try and deny those pink wards, try and create their own vision so that they can track Sejuani even better, already knowing that Jarvan has the advantage in terms of just 1v1 pressure.
Aggression, aggression, aggression. Here we go. There's the ultimate onto Sejuani. Taking a ton of damage is Hayai Beko. And now the teleport in. Nephaloid is there. But the Galio heroic entrances gets a huge knock-up, no flash on Breezy. But they do get the taunts and the stuns. And there's a kill onto Sejuani. Looks like Gnar is there with Ezreal. They are dealing tons of damage. Nephaloid is going to be next. But Nevermind is in the fight now dealing damage. But it doesn't matter because Arizona State has so much in. There's a knock-up onto everyone. And the Gnar ultimate no Q. Wig 5 is going to go down with a nice last auto attack. Boom, death by Zerg.
Yeah, that was a really intense team fight. All of those teleports came through at random different times. It seemed like one after another, that there was just so much chaos. It was hard to tell who could be winning that fight at first, simply because it was seeming like Jarvan gets caught out first, right? He gets kind of caught in a 1v4 as the first teleport comes through. Maokai shows up and crowd controls him in, but the Cataclysm kept people locked in. I'd love to see a replay of that one just to see how it kind of played out with the teleports coming in at different times, and everybody who showed up with a teleport seemed to have some sort of AoE crowd control or stalling ability. And luckily for USC, it didn't seem like Kog'Maw was caught in any of that. No. He was able to just auto attack, auto attack, auto attack, auto attack, and keep putting out the damage per second. But unfortunately for them, it just wasn't enough because the tanks, the health had already come through from the front line. The Galio shows up to knock people up, and then you can see that the Gnar shows in, the nice multi-man ultimates from pretty much everybody on both sides, really. It just ended up being a chaotic fight. It was a little early for Jarvan to start that, and honestly, it felt like he was getting caught out just for a vision. But let's get a second look at how that went through.
I think that the saving grace was not just the stopwatch, but the Golden Aegis. They changed it so that it gives him additional defenses per enemy champion hit. So the 1v4 may have actually been to their advantage rather than to the detriment. It gave him time enough for Galio to show up with that ultimate. It's at a range right now. It's only the first level of it, but I think that's really what saved that engage. As Jarvan knew there were a lot of them there, he can get that extra resistance on the shield from his W.
Yeah, and you can know that sometimes when one person gets fought, if they gets caught out, then the team that's catching someone might use a little bit more than they should to try and secure that kill quickly. And so once they've committed all of their extra resources, they might be down. The cooldowns have to come back up, and while those cooldowns are not available to them, that can be a good window of opportunity for the other team to re-engage, restart that fight, especially if they've been bought enough time like what happened there in that fight.
No fight here over the Drake. I think that was a good move, but now we are back into a pause. I think the Drake was the right place for Arizona State to go. They are playing just as early as they need to. Scaling is the name of the game for USC, and they are stopping it.
It's good to get a Mountain Drake because the one problem, on top of some other ones that we could mention, but the one main problem for the mid-game for University of Southern California here on red side is that if Kog'Maw is the main source of your damage from range, that's all good and fine unless you're trying to take a turret. The rest of your lineup is mostly short range. Although Lissandra and Janna are range champions, it's really short range, and they're not really built for taking down turrets. And so you're going to often see them having to set up sieges far in advance, and a Mountain Dragon helps them to do that because then when they do have opportunities to hit structures, they're going to do that much damage. So I would like to see Arizona State University trying to take that from the Trojans, because if the Trojans can secure a couple of those, or at least one early, getting that first turret bonus gold can help them snowball into the late game faster. And the faster they get to a few items on Kog'Maw, a couple of tank items on their front line, and more stall potential from the Lissandra, the Ardent Sensor can come through. When those key items are completed, it's extremely difficult to win these team fights for Arizona State unless you catch out that Kog'Maw in rotation.
Right, and now we are starting to see where these deficits are. In the top lane, 108 CS to 90. That's a finished Black Cleaver to 2 components of 2 different items on the Maokai. Looking in the jungle, almost 6 or so. That's a full camp ahead. That's a finished Cinder Hulk on Jarvan, nothing on Sejuani. Finished Abyssal Mask versus the Morellonomicon, and then you have the Sheen, Tyr, and the boots and everything from Ezreal. Of course to be expected because of Kleptomancy, but still, they are so far ahead.
Yeah, it is a total 3,000 or so gold lead on the whole, and most of it is going to be spread evenly throughout the team, even though there's a 2-0 and 4 in mid, and of course Jarvan's been pretty much everywhere, Ezreal doing a lot as well. Most of the gold is going to be from these CS leads, right? It's in that top lane. Gnar has a full completed item, and it's an armor shred item against a completed armor item. And so you can see that it's likely, as Gnar is pushing in the top lane alone, he's got the pressure on that Maokai, and there's no other
oh, there's the engage. We see all of the ultimates coming out and all the damage, and suddenly the USC jungler is down. Perfect catch. Now they cannot afford to contest this Drake. It is the exclusive property of the Sun Devils.
Yeah, you know, we talk about how there is that possible line of scrimmage, as we call it, when it comes to vision. If you look at the river, there's a pink ward in the pit, there's a pink ward near bottom lane, there's a pink ward near mid lane, there's just that one soul ward in the
it's
mid
another
lane.
fight on the bot lane. Sorry to interrupt you, but that's a kill for Death by Zerg onto the Kog'Maw. We're going to have to get a replay of that one because that was sick.
Yeah, it was just one more of those instant engages by Breezy here on the Alistar. He's getting those catches. He caught out Jimmy Rustling on that Sejuani in the river, and it looks like he did the same. We'll get that for you in just a moment, but it looks like he did the same onto Kog'Maw, who had his summoner spells available, but probably just got caught by surprise.
And the other thing we have to mention here, Nevermind used the teleport. I guess he said, oh, never mind. It was cast. It was starting to get channeled. It is only on half cooldown right now, but it results in first turret, so take me through this replay. This is going to be exciting.
Yeah, so Kog'Maw just kind of underneath his turret. Thinks he's pretty safe, but there's going to be the Galio that ults in, and that's multiple kinds of damage reduction, meaning the turret means nothing. And yes, you did see the channel for the teleport start to come through, but Lissandra doesn't have to show up, and really can't do anything to help the Kog'Maw because he's already dead.
He's gone. And our aggression level has not dropped. Those Sun Devils are fighting these Trojans just as hard as we expected them. They have all of the engage, they had all of the early fights, and they're making it count, stopping this late game from happening from USC.
What I especially like is that they're playing to their strengths. They know that their frontline engagement tools outclass, especially early on, outclass the damage potential and kite ability that USC tried to build with their draft. And so they're not afraid to, even without minions, dive that Kog'Maw underneath the turret with multiple ultimates, a lot of spells, just go straight onto him and try and just snowball their early advantage that they've built themselves here, now up to 5,000 gold lead. And it's beautiful to see them playing to their strengths.
And now we do see a moderately slow rotation here from the Trojans. They're going to have to lose this other turret. They did not move their bot lane up to contest the obvious move coming from Arizona State. Once you take that turret, you go to the next turret. And because of the advantage that Gnar has over the Maokai, they get the turret. And now it looks like they might be setting up just to take a Rift Herald too. It's so much pressure. It is so much early moves. Everything is going the way of the Sun Devils.
Yeah, and I'm actually really happy to see it because, generally speaking, USC is going to be top of the charts in a lot of those traditional sports.
Yeah.
But we move over here into the esports realm, and one of those middle-of-the-pack traditional sports schools like ASU is actually trouncing them, at least in this match in the early game. So really well played by Arizona to play to their strengths, draft for early, draft for engage, and use those tools whenever possible to their strengths and advantages and just keep pressing that. Because the moment that you slow down when you're playing to your early game and you're playing that aggressive style, the moment that you slow down and you take a breather and you try and like say, okay, let's slow down, reset, get some items, figure out what we're going to do from here, and you don't have a game plan, that's the minutes that it takes, the minutes at a time that just add up and end up being, oops, we're in late game, and Kog'Maw is killing everyone. So if they can't finish it within the next 10 minutes of game time, that's pretty scary for ASU because despite their massive advantage at this point, 6K gold lead, 2 towers to nothing, up in kills, up in farm in almost every lane, you need to see that being pressed and suffocating USC out of this because the moment you give them a breather, they're going to take a deep breath and come back full swing.
And we've seen that exact thing happen. Just a couple weeks ago, we saw Echo Fox overcome, I think it was a 7,000 gold deficit against TSM. It was massive. And then what we need to see is what Golden Guardians did on yesterday, where they actually did it. They got their first win against 100 Thieves because they dove the turrets, they got the kills, they got the pressure, and they never let up. And so I want to see Arizona State continue, just like you were saying. They need to win this game in the next 10 or so minutes.
And a lot of that mentality translates from both traditional sports and into esports, where if you have an advantage, you want to keep that momentum going, right? It's all about the psychology of making sure that when you have your advantage, you're pressing it, you're never giving up, and you're not letting your team reset. The pauses like these tend to be for the technical issues, but hopefully if you're a fan of USC, that they're also taking a little bit of a breather here to be like, look, we're kind of falling behind, we're having some mess-ups here, we need to make sure that we aren't just flailing, excuse the Sejuani pun, but that we can actually get back into this, right? You want to see that if you're a fan of the Trojans, their win conditions are to say, look, take the fights we can, avoid the fights we can't. And part of that ends up being creating the vision or denying deep vision so that you can not get caught out in the rotation between the lanes. Because most importantly, you need to be picking up that farm. And especially onto the Kog'Maw. Kog'Maw's really immobile. And if he gets caught out in rotation, there's really nothing he can do. Even when you have Janna with you, there's multiple re-engage techniques. I mean, imagine that Kog'Maw's walking in the middle of his jungle. He gets caught. We'll say that Alistar flashes onto him, and you're like, dang, what do you do about an Alistar flash? Janna's like, free reset, right? Presses R. Monsoon's going to give you a nice reset. But by that time, it's likely that Galio started channeling heroic entrance. And if he just lands on top of you, it doesn't matter if Janna, she's going to be right underneath it, right?
Get knocked up too.
You have to make sure that you don't get engaged on in the first place. Because if you get engaged on, it's likely that there's no hope for you moving forward until we're at the point in late game where Janna, yes, shields you for like thousands. She has like Locket on top of that, maybe even a Mikhail's, keeping you alive, and that you have your own life steal as Kog'Maw to just keep surviving, and that your team is close enough that they can re-engage.
And a point to that, I think that the hope is still there for USC, not just because of the scaling, but because of the way they drafted. They drafted Peel. They didn't draft full, let's go fight people engaged. They drafted things to let Kog'Maw win. And so what they're probably waiting for is an actual engage from Arizona State, and they want to counter it. Throw the ultimate from Lissandra to stop that main engage. They can take damage inside of it, whereas she is completely untargetable. It deals damage to your target, and then you can immediately layer on the Sejuani ult, and then Kog'Maw's just in the back. That was their first aggression there. So maybe that's what they're actually... We have not seen anything from USC yet. I am confident that later on in the game, their comp will have a lot more secret weapons than I think we've seen so far.
But it really does come down quite simply to, do we get to the late game?
Right.
Because if we don't get to the late game, then it's impossible for USC's composition to do what it's designed to do, which is win for free post 35 minutes.
Right.
If you don't get there, there's no way for you to actually have win conditions. In fact, when you draft such a late game composition, unless things go terribly in your favor, I mean Clown Fiesta level of in your favor,
botching every
20
single
to
dive.
4 in kills, unless you win every single fight handily and get a million extra turrets early, you're not actually going to have the kind of champions that just snowball an early advantage like you would see from Arizona State University, excuse me.
And so now we do see a fight. There's a good Q onto Brezzy EQ combo, but now Jarvan is in a lot of trouble. He is going to get that Cataclysm down. Sejuani ult is whiffed. Gnar is not anywhere close to Mega Gnar. Flash away. Nephiloid does pick up a kill, but Gnar is going to take down like them, and now it is a 2v3. A lot of damage coming in onto Sejuani. Summoner heal popped. Will they go down? There is the ultimate from Galio with the knockup and the ultimates, all of the crowd control from Gnar. We talked about his team fight potential. It is huge, but then now it is a 2v1 onto Death by Zerg. Death by Zerg needs to be careful, needs to get out. That Justice Punch can be buffered. Instead, he's going to go in. He gets the kill except for the stopwatch, and in goes Brevi. Nephiloid and Death by Zerg are fighting it out. Winds of War dealing a lot of damage. Flash forward, Death by Zerg picks up the Rampage level kill. 13-6.
Man, what a crazy, well-fought fight by both of these teams. Kog'Maw wasn't there for the beginning, so he's not going to be able to deal the damage at the front end of that fight, but the front line engage potential, never mind there, with a lot of burst from this Lissandra, ends up taking down Ezreal and Jarvan very quickly. Jarvan forced to flash out of his own Cataclysm. Yeah. But it ends up going in favor of Death by Zerg with just enough damage and just enough tankiness in his kit to kind of 1v2 near at the end there. We saw kind of a failed combo there from Breezy trying to play around that stopwatch, but ultimately it ends up just going slightly in favor of Arizona State University. But to be honest, if fights keep going like this, even though it looks like they won, if fights go in that favor, going 1-for-1 essentially are pretty close.
Speaking of fights, oh, but will the ultimate be enough?
Oh,
and
it is!
Sweet takes out Nevermind in a 1v1 that he should have lost.
That was a lot of damage.
Oh, my
Lissandra
goodness.
not quite enough. But what I was trying to get at is that if any of these fights go 1-for-1, imagine that there's an Ignite on Ezreal or something like that, and they both die there, and Lissandra does play it correctly, gets enough damage onto the Ezreal, dodges out the skill shots, and kills the Ezreal, but dies to an Ignite. Going 1-for-1 as a team that scales is always good. It's so good for the University of Southern California to actually win fights, let alone go even, because it'll always mean, yes, the game ends whenever a Nexus explodes, but until we get to that point, you can only ever get 6 items. You can only ever get 18 levels. So however we get there is fine as long as we get there, because our team composition is meant to win essentially for free as long as we get to the late game. So going 1-for-1, yes, you end up dying, gold goes over to the enemy team, but because there are caps on levels, caps on the amount of items you can buy, there's no Ornn here either for either of these teams to give a little bit more to talk about that level of play. It's simply that 1-for-1s, generally speaking, are favorable for USC.
Right, and now the Rift Herald is summoned. It will take this turret because it will take all, oh my goodness, no, about 40 hit points left. One more auto attack. Red turret goes down. And the fight is not going to progress. They are just going to take down the Rift Herald while ASU decides to disengage. Good smart play. Get your last outer turret. Don't try and start a fight because we saw how the last one went. If it's not a perfect engage, they may as well be doing a 1-for-1 trade.
And it has to be the farm being funneled onto this Kog'Maw. Unless he can get close to like 3 items. As soon as he hits 3 items, you got the Rage Blade, you've got additional crit chance, likely going to be that Rune on Hurricane, and then either Lifesteal or more crit chance. You want to see something like a Blade of the Rune King for that massive amount of front line that ASU has, or you want to see more crit chance to just melt people quite quickly if they only have health and not a lot of resistances, or if they have the resistances, the crit does even better. You're going to want to see this Kog'Maw getting to those items. He does have 4 out of his team's 6 kills, but he also has 4 deaths and has fallen a little bit behind because of it. He's down a level from Ezreal. He's kind of close in farm, considering he's died 4 times. And they keep fighting, meaning you can't be farming if you're just always fighting. But it's going to have to be more stalling here for USC.
And I think that this Windrake will help them with that, right? Their comp is meant to combat the aggression of ASU. And so the extra out-of-combat movement speed will help them rotate a little faster, especially because ASU has the Mountain Drake. So they will be pushing. They will be trying to take the turrets. And so you need to be able to get there quicker. I think there was a good pickup there. Most of the times, Windrakes aren't the most popular, but I think that it really is valuable for this team. But now we have a Baron start.
In Vision, though, although that ward is not available for Vision, there's a pink ward over the wall. They're going to know. They're going to back off the... Ooh, okay. If the teleport is actually canceled there, you can see teleport coming off of cooldown for the Gnar, excuse me, who's in Mega, going to have a timeout on the way. But you can see the recalls coming through. I think it's a good call to turn back on Baron here if you see recalls come through. That's likely out of Vision, but push up mid, start the Baron up again. This is that early game into snowball potential we need to see. We need to see ASU prioritizing that Baron, forcing USC into bad fights out of Vision, which it looks like they're trying to do, but they actually have to hit that go button and say, yes, we have vision of the pit, we have vision around the pit. Look, where is a red ward outside of just that one brush that's on your screen right now? There isn't anything anywhere close to the Baron. Bring your damage over, have your people tank it up. You can see that Gnar is able to teleport in. If you have to pull off of the Baron because they take a fight and it's going relatively poorly, then you just have Gnar continue to split push. What USC is trying to do here is send Lissandra and Maokai over to try and catch him so that he doesn't have that threat because they're down that teleport. Lissandra's going to have to be the one who matches him with her own teleport. But honestly, she's a very important member of engaging on a Baron contest.
Right, and that's what they really need. They cannot send Lissandra to answer the split push. It has to be Maokai, but he can't. He's already behind. He has the armor shred and the hit point shred from the Gnar, so there's no way that he's going to be able to withstand it. But now, look at that damage there onto Jimmy wrestling. Shui is doing really well right now. That finished Muramana with the Iceborne Gauntlet is just going to be ridiculous.
Yes, and you mentioned the armor shred that a Gnar can do here. It will help out Ezreal to deal even more damage. With the Muramana completed, he's actually going to deal significant damage, not just with his spells, but his auto attacks will each proc that item. And he doesn't have armor shred yet. He just is building towards that Blade of the Ruined King health shred. We do have an engage, though.
That is the EQ combo into the Justice Punch. A couple of taunts. The teleport from Lissandra is there. There's a nice ultimate from the Maokai, but all of the damage resistance. Jarvan makes it out alive, and now Ezreal has free reign. There's a jump in from the cow, that EQ. The next stun is going to go with the Ignite onto Kog'Maw. Kog'Maw dealing a lot of damage, but gets knocked up, and that's another kill for the side of the Sun Devils. All the slows in a fourth. That is a 4-for-1 trade, excuse me, 4-for-1 trade in favor of Arizona State.
Yeah, a little bit tunnel vision there, if I may say so myself, there from the Maokai and the Lissandra. Remember, they're those buffer-creating champions. We talked about this early on, that saying that Lissandra and the front line, what they're meant to do is keep people off of Kog'Maw so that Kog'Maw can be the one to deal damage. If Jarvan gets away with no health, you know at least he can't rejoin the fight. He's no longer a threat. You know who is a threat? The people who are piling on top of your AD carry. So we'll take a quick look at how that fight went out. Watch how Lissandra and Maokai leave the fight, leave where they're supposed to be. This is an early engage. The Jarvan kind of gets separated from his team. The flash out from the Kog'Maw, he's able to just free hit. The Jarvan ends up leaving the fight very quickly. And you can see down here at the bottom, Lissandra and Maokai flash in. Yes, they finish off the Jarvan, but on the other side of your screen is the rest of their entire team just being deleted. And then Ezreal is able to re-engage. He ends up basically gifting a double kill over here to the Alistar, who takes those kills. But it was that Ezreal's very mobile of a champion, so it's hard to lock him down. It looks like he's building the QSS next. You see that Null Magic Mantle, meaning it's even less valuable and even more of a mistake for Lissandra to leave Kog'Maw's side. Because if you try and go to the backline, try and get to the Ezreal, he's just going to QSS and get out of there. And Jarvan isn't full damage. He's not a threat. He starts fights and tries to create a catch potential, but they didn't catch someone. That was a poor started fight, honestly, by ASU. They ended up getting a get-out-of-jail-free card by just the poor allocation of resources here for USC. Lysandra, Maokai, stay on top of the Kog'Maw and know that Kog'Maw will out-damage the
Everything.
5v5. He's going to deal more damage than even Ezreal. If Ezreal's free hitting and Kog'Maw's free hitting, Kog'Maw's always going to deal more damage to the front line and everybody else who follows than Ezreal will. So just play to your strengths. Don't tunnel vision.
Right, and now this Baron buff is going to net them a tier 2 turret in the mid. They're going to rotate right up to top. It looks like Gnar already took the bottom turret too. That's 2 turrets so far from this Baron buff. Very, very advantageous for ASU. Sun Devils using their advantages, getting the speed buffs from the Jarvan E and the W, but now we have another fight. Huge taunts coming in, Ezreal ults. There's the Maokai ult. No Cataclysm from Jarvan yet, but is it necessary? It is not. That's a double kill for Ezreal, and they're just going to rampage this base. Kog'Maw is the only one there, but the cow goes in, and all the damage from the Winds of War. Triple kill for Ezreal. Will it be a quadra? There are 4 kills unanswered by USC. Let's see. Lysandra looks like she's coming close. Is there enough time to give the Penta over to Shui? No, Lysandra decides better of it. And with Gnar right there, they have a full 5 team fight with a Baroned up cannon wave.
Yeah, it is going to look like it's going to be the end here. The first Nexus turret falls. The second going to follow shortly. But if you just look at it, the name of the game is the snowball here. They finally got onto it. They started that Baron up. They win some fights nearby, and that ends up netting them the win. It ends up being an 18,000 gold lead in their favor, which just goes so well when you have those early game champions, the fast engage. Let's take one last look at that fight. You can see Sejuani kind of started in, and then the knock-up into full combo. Maokai tries to ult to give himself a little bit room and knocks people back, gives a little bit more space. You can see Week 5 is like, yes, I have to play almost a full screen away because they have so much engage potential. And now that the engage is close, he's trying to defend the turret, can't really do it. And at that point, you have 2 squishy champions. Yes, someone's willing to even suicide if they have to take that kill, and it ends up netting a quadra kill here for Shui. Really well played by that Ezreal. Ends up netting first win here, the best of 3 in favor of Arizona State University. They're always like, is it Arizona University? University of Arizona.
No, I feel you, man. I feel you. It's really good. And it is so fantastic to see these guys go. And the highlights of that right here, the quadra kill for Ezreal, the first blood for Jarvan, everything just worked to their favor. They had their one scaler, that Ezreal, and we saw what it did. So
yeah,
very good.
It ended up being just a massive gold lead that did the work for them, really. Mm-hmm. And yes, they did what was necessary to get there. You saw them diving turrets, one after another to get early kills, get more kills, and of course, investing those resources into vision so that they could contest objectives and force those fights. It was just a little bit of a miscommunication, at least, if not just a misunderstanding on the side of USC as to what their win conditions were. They need to play to that a little bit different. And honestly, like Jat was talking about on the analyst desk this weekend about some of the matches of LCS, when teams draft to a certain win condition and don't play to it, you'd rather see them just draft differently than try and fix that. It's a little bit easier, because if you're just the type of player, the type of team that's used to playing aggressive, used to taking fights whenever you can, play aggro early game champions. Don't play the scalers.
No.
It's an entirely different game.
For sure. And Arizona State knew that. They knew exactly what they were doing. They got their champions. They got their style. It was beautiful. It was amazing to watch.
Yeah. So once again, we'll give you a quick rundown as to how the PACG runs. We're just going to talk quickly about what you can expect over the next few weeks, how we run these tournaments, and it's not just League of Legends. There's other games involved.
No, for sure. It's actually 4 different tournaments. There will be League of Legends, Overwatch, Hearthstone, and Rocket League coming out here for the next 8 weeks. All the best players of those 10 schools that are involved are going to go head-to-head every weekday night in the group stages. League of Legends will be Monday night and Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, and that's 6 p.m. Pacific. Schools are split into 2 regions, the North and the South, and each school will have the chance to face every other school in their region in best-of-3 matches. At the end of the group stage, the top 3 teams from each region will go to the playoffs, a single elimination bracket with the top team advancing directly to the semifinals. It all ends with Finals Week, when the final games for all League of Legends, Overwatch, Hearthstone, and Rocket League will all be played in one high-action week.
So let's give our viewers a better idea of how this is all set up to go. So let's take a look at the groups. In the South region, we have the University of Arizona, Arizona State University, University of California, Los Angeles, University of Southern California, and then, of course, Washington State University.
And then here in the North region, we have the University of Oregon, Oregon State University, Stanford University, and the University of Utah, with the University of Colorado filling out the north side.
Yeah, so again, this is our matchup this evening between Arizona State University and USC. It's the first official best-of-3 match between any of these teams, and so that's just going to be the first game win here in favor of Arizona State University, but they've got to win one more if they want to take the entire match, the best-of-3 this evening. So we're going to give a quick break so that those teams can set up their new drafts, maybe talk about what happened. Perhaps USC will change up their draft and bring new champions, a new style to maybe combat that and play into what might be their more comfortable play style, which would be being as aggressive as we saw Arizona State be. So we're going to take a quick break, give them time to regroup, and we'll be right back with more League of Legends action from the Pacific Alliance of Collegiate Gamers right after this. All right, welcome back to the premiere broadcast of the Pacific Alliance of Collegiate Gamers' first season of League of Legends. Before the break, we saw University of Arizona State. I keep doing that. Arizona State University. They took a convincing win with their early game, heavy engage composition. They took the first victory of this best of three, setting them up for match point if they can win this next game.
And you know what? I don't want to talk about it anymore. We already talked about it. We know exactly what they're going to do. We know their play style. Let's get into this next draft. Let's see another game, and let's see how USC changes their priorities here. I want to see more early game. I want to see more aggression. They just relied too heavily on that Kog'Maw.
They did. I love that kind of a composition and that kind of draft, and we'll see as soon as we get the draft on their way if they go for more of the same, because it is a strong composition that you can draft for and can play out. But if it's not your play style, then you're going to run into trouble, and that's precisely what happened. They fell behind early, didn't quite know how to stall it out well enough, and of course, a lot of that is going to be just the champions you draft. Because, I mean, congratulations, honestly, to USC for getting that strong of a late-game draft, but then it comes down to execution. Can you get there? And, you had the Engage composition that Arizona State University brought out, and they played it relatively well. They took a couple early engages that ended up just kind of falling in their favor, as you saw like the bottom fight map, and you're bearing a few of those. If USC can draft even more of the same and play it a little bit more cleanly, I think they can do it in there pretty well, because I'm not seeing Arizona State actually play perfectly. There's those gaps where they could be punished, but it's going to have to take the right kind of draft, the right kind of communication to make that happen for USC, too.
And do they ban the J4? That was ludicrous. The synergy between their champions, I want to know if USC is going to ban the J4 or not. But looking here on the screen, we do see the first wave of bans. Double support ban for USC, getting rid of Lulu and Tom Kench.
If that's for USC, then I imagine they're changing up their draft, because those are both extremely strong champions for protecting a backline carry like Kog'Maw. Lulu, of course, the classic Jugger Cog support. And then, of course, Tom Kench gives that extra set of summoner spells almost. It's the extra ability to peel and reposition your AD carry if that's what it ends up being.
And an interesting turn of events here. Actually, ASU bans the Jarvan. I think that they were thinking about it, and they're like, okay, we showcased what Jarvan can do, so let's not give it over to USC, because it is a really strong champion. Varus ban coming out again. That's typical of the draft, just the strength of the champion in the meta right now. And then Sejuani. Sejuani also banned, so getting rid of 2 of the top 3 junglers right now.
Yeah, and those are really strong frontline engage tools that Arizona State would likely want to take, right? We saw them building the heavy engage frontline, so if those are getting banned out, we're going to get a very different draft already here, the bans showing us that. So I'll be interested to see what USC decides to first pick, because when you come off of a loss, you either change things around like it looks like they're doing with their draft, and you kind of throw a curveball maybe for a game 2. You say, we're on our back foot. We're going to try maybe this thing we have in our back pocket that we're very comfortable with. It looks like it will be the first lock of a Maokai, which will likely once again be in the top, I think.
Yeah, they couldn't first pick the Sejuani like they did last game, and I think that that's okay. I think that they're going to I think maybe what they're going to do, USC has that kind of assassinate and kite style of play. So I think what they're going to do is they're going to draft a tank in the top lane and a tanky support, you know, like the likes of Alistar, because it's going to be available. Maybe a Braum as well, or Tyrek. I think I would really like to see a Tyrek come out, and then use that as your front line, and then maybe get the likes of Kane or Kha'Zix that we've seen Jimmy Wrestling have in his history. So looking over here now, okay, so it won't be the Braum because that is picked up for Breezy along with the Galio, going to go on to Death by Zerg again. I liked that pick before, and now I'm really happy to see it again. Yeah,
you know, Zerg played it extremely well. I would like to see him being a little more aggressive. He did follow up with a lot of well-timed heroic entrances, Hero's entrance, but it's going to have to be a little bit more pressure from the mid lane if Jarvan doesn't get those early leads like he did, because then it'll be up to him to rotate with Jarvan or rotate over to side lanes on his own even,
right,
to make sure that he can show that it wasn't just a fluke in game one, that the Galio is that comfortable for him, and that he can create pressure without free early leads, essentially.
And so we do see the Skarner coming out. It is another popular pick right now. Got good crowd control, meant to be a tank and a frontliner, an initiation source. But then the Corki. Corki has been rising in popularity, I think, just with how much damage he can actually put out. You know, with getting that Trinity Force and the Infinity Edge, that magic damage plus your critting plus the bonus damage. You're casting spells all over the place. It's a lot to come out here. I like the pick. It was banned last time though.
Corki can be really strong, and Braum can only do so much. Yes, his Unbreakable blocks projectiles, but as soon as it takes its max amount of damage that it can block, it gets broken. It's not actually unbreakable, right?
Well,
and so
there you go.
He's going to be able to frontline, yes, but we're going to have to see how that turns out. Breezy did do some work last game on the Alistar, but I'm excited to see. Nevermind did play really well on the Lissandra in terms of mechanics. The Corki should be even more scary to see such a talented player playing that to its highest potential. Just to give you guys a rundown of the draft thus far, this is going to be, we're into the second ban phase. The first bans for each of these teams, USC here on the left side, you can see Lulu, Tom Kench, Sejuani, those engage, keep your backline safe type champions. And then, of course, first three bans from Arizona State. It's going to be the Varus, Jarvan, Tristana, and now we've got Ezreal banned out for blue side, Janna banned out for red side, and we'll have to see how the rest of these bans come through and what they end up wanting to pick to round out these compositions, because we're still waiting here for USC to pick their bottom lane, likely, unless it's some flex of honestly, I think it would be more likely to see the Maokai be flexed down to a random support pick than to see Corki as an 80 carry.
That's interesting to say, and you know what, it actually does, I think it makes no sense to me to ban the Morgana that we see right there coming out of USC, because that, unless it's a direct counter to the Corki mid, Morgana is normally a support champion. I don't understand why that one would be banned, but we see a lot of priority coming from ASU again to ban out the bot lane. That's 380 carries and the Janna going out, and then they lock in the Xayah.
And they don't, what they were trying to do maybe is actually force the Rakan choice, because it wasn't banned out. Unlike last time, Xayah and Rakan make it through here. They might actually, they have the Braum early.
Yeah.
I just noticed that. But that could have been extremely strong. I like the Sivir pick here because there's not a lot of engage tools by Arizona State University that actually made it through. They don't have the Jarvan anymore. They don't have the Sejuani. Both those banned out for this. So your only engage potential is going to be the Zac. I was just about to mention how Zac's the only remaining top-tier jungler that can get onto the backline instantly in a moment, right? And so you need somebody like that if you're going to pick that Galio so early for him to follow up that heroic entrance with. But Sivir can spell shield something, so we'll have to see if she can remain safe in position. And actually, with the Sivir pick, we've seen in collegiate competitive play, you and I have casted some games wherein Sivir, in a win, in a loss, regardless of the outcome of a match, she's extremely strong, more so than people would expect, against tanky frontline and initiating fights.
Yeah, a lot of that has to do with the fact that she builds the Essence Reaver first, gets her crit chance, gets her cooldown reduction, gets the extra mana. Her W is an auto attack reset, can get to 100% crit very easily on this champion. And each one of those ricocheting W hits is a crit. When you crit, they all crit through the entire bouncing. And so it's just going to punch right through everything because you're dealing 2.5 times damage with your Infinity Edge when you get it. It's going to be massive.
Yeah, and I'm actually really excited about both of these compositions here. We're in the last little few minutes here of a spectator delay, and I want to talk about these compositions because, for me, USC has a really interesting combination that I think can be extremely strong, and that is with the Skarner pick. He's been recently buffed in a few patches recently, and he counters pretty well what Arizona State looks to be wanting to do. Once again, they have that kind of backline threat, initiation, heavy initiation tools trying to burst down a single target or multiple targets in AoE. What Skarner can do is create a hiccup for you in that situation, and Taric can say, while we're doing this, you can't do anything to us. So if you grab anybody really, although of course you're going to have higher priority targets like the Xayah herself or even the full AP, generally speaking, Galio, you pull them in, you burst them down, and while you're bursting them down, what is the enemy team going to try and do? What is Arizona State likely to want to do? To engage on you so that they say, if you're starting a fight, fine, we'll take this fight. We're going to take it full head on. But if they do that, then Tarek can press. Oh, his Cosmic Radiance means we don't take damage while you re-engage on us, and we're going to start this fight out once we're able to take damage as a 5v4. So really nice draft here from USC.
And that's why I brought it up earlier. I think Tarek is exactly what USC needs. The idea that they play that kind of kitey type of style, that assassination, all those kind of things, Tarek allows for better picks. Instead of having an actual front line, you have a simulated front line in his ultimate, making everybody invulnerable. It's a wise choice, and I think that it's really going to up USC's level of play, being able to play around that Cosmic Radiance.
Yeah, I like that both of these teams now have both opted in to that kind of scale and 5v5 team fight. Honestly, the split push is still going to go in favor of ASU simply because they have the Gnar into Maokai once again, and Gnar's always going to bully that matchup. There's not really anything you can do in the 1v1. You can bring the 2v2, and honestly, that might go pre-6. Actually, post-6, it's likely far more in favor of the Gnar and Zach with their comboable ultimates. They pull you underneath the turret or something like that. But if they start early, you can burst down a Gnar if you have the Skarner there to crowd control him.
Yeah.
So it could go either way depending on how jungle pressure goes near the top lane. Mid lane, honestly, it could go either way depending on how Corki plays it. I imagine that by picking this Corki, they already saw the first pick Galio. They know how to play that matchup. Never mind, played really well in mid last game.
Right.
I want to see him do more of the same with the strengths of this champion, which should honestly be able to bully out mid lane, keep once he gets enough mana, probably Trinity Force, then he can actually bully out the Galio because he has his reposition tools. So that if Galio tries to jump on him, he can trade. He's from range. He can bully that matchup in the range versus the melee. And then PACG actually means he can far faster than Lissandra could do without the teleport.
Right.
He can actually show up to fights with the package.
That was the point I was going to make while we were talking about Corki. The package is actually more than just a roaming tool; it's an engage tool.
Yeah.
That right there, the fact that it stays on the ground, it has a massive slow, huge damage over time. It knocks people aside. That's an engage right there. And then if Skarner's in the exact right spot, you just snatch someone while they're being knocked up, drag them to your carry, and just wipe them out. I think Corki is a much better pick than Lissandra was last game.
I think they could have used the Lissandra properly, but that's one and done. They set that beside them. You know, when you lose your first match of a best of 3, you just set it from your mind. If you're going to play the same kind of composition, you're going to have to think, what did we do wrong? What can we fix? But if they're trying to adapt to a different playstyle, which they look to have done, it's less of the scale to late win for free as much as it could be. We actually have some significant mid-game damage.
Yeah.
If you're going to play to a different style, you just forget about Game 1. Forget that you took a little bit of a rough loss. Come back strong. And I imagine that they're capable of doing that with the composition that they've drafted thus far.
Yeah, and it's all good changes, good things that they learned. You know, they have a more aggressive AD carry. They've got a more aggressive mid lane. They have a much more supportive support. I mean, not in the terms of being able to bully the lane, because that's where the meta is right now. It's all about the aggression and the bullying of that bot lane. That's why you see the likes of Braum and Alistar and Tarek and Tom Kench. And so even though Janna is really strong, the Queen of Disengage, all those things, I think that this earlier aggression in Sivir and Tarek, that entire change of mindset on the bot lane might do USC some good.
Yeah, and you can see both these teams just trying to early secure the Skarner little area of effects here. Those
Gives you gold. Yeah,
they do give you gold, 15 per champion, up to a max of 30 per team. So that's going to be split between all 5 if you have 5 people standing on it. But yeah, I mean, if you can have Skarner having his early, quick jungle clears to match this Zach has a little bit better of gank potential because he can show up from out of vision very quickly, but Skarner has just as potent crowd control if he can land it.
Right.
So we'll have to see where these junglers decide to prioritize their early pressure, because top lane, Gnar is easy to escape. He can escape. But Maokai has a lot better gank assist, where he can root someone down and make sure that Skarner can get there with his crowd control.
For sure.
We'll have to see how it plays out. I'm excited for the potential here for USC to bring this back, bring us to a Game 3. They've done the composition. They've changed it up a little bit, but not gone so far out of their comfort zone if of course, having the late game scaling is their comfort. I'm excited to see how this turns out.
Yeah. Another thing we need to point out here is our AD carries are actually going to have very similar build paths. You want to get the Essence Reaver first on Xayah as well. And our first aggression does go out on the bot lane. It looks like we have to burn a flash on Taric. That's interesting. The Winter's Bite coming out from Breezy, and Shui probably got a couple auto attacks in and got that stun.
Yeah, the early couple of levels from a Braum Xayah lane are really strong. You've got two different routes that you can bring to that fight, and it's likely that both of those ended up landing onto the Taric. And with the Ignite, definitely forcing that flash out. So really well played here by the bottom lane on red side.
And that's what we saw last time, too. They're underneath the turret again. They're just wanting to get the pressure. They just want to keep pushing and allow their jungler, especially the likes of Zac, who can come in from so far away, they want to be in a position to dive the turrets. They have the tank, they have the resistances gained from the stand behind me from Braum. I think that that's their goal. Keep them underneath the turret and let your jungler do the work.
Yes, and they'll be pushing here into the bottom side. It looks like with the spell usage, Xayah able to hit the entire wave together. Of course, Sivir can do a little bit of the same, but without her Taric, she's not comfortable pushing out, of course. I want to see if, now that Taric has returned, despite being down his flash, if they're still going to play safe because he doesn't have flash, or if they want to stay pushed away from their turret to have a little bit more priority as well. But Zac might be looking to clear this camp and then look for a gank into mid lane. He'll probably take a significant amount of damage from this camp. His regen will come back up after a while because of the red buff, but with a full health Corki, unlikely to see the dive.
No,
but it's a possibility. That's one of those
dive.
gank paths you want to see this Zac taking. It's something that the Skarner can't do, which is come from a random location, from a random angle to create that surprise factor from behind you. It's not something you're used to feeling as like a solo laner.
Yeah, and the interesting things about Zac are you have to play the game in a completely different way. You know, the same general areas are where he's going to gank from, but the manner in which he does it, it's like fighting Evelynn in the jungle once she hits level 6. You just have to completely change your mindset, the way you look at the map, the way you envision gank pathing. It's just so different. And I think that it was wise for Baeko to not go in for that Corki full health, but instead is here on the bottom lane. Lane gank going to be attempted. The ward just expired. Did it see him?
I'm not sure. It's pretty close. You can see the Skarner's here, but I don't see the pings coming through onto where Zac is. I'm not seeing blue pings on that location, so I don't think they did spot him. This will be the wave pushing up. He will decide if he wants to go into that back brush and come from afar, or they're going to clear out this pink ward. I think by clearing out this pink ward, it might signal that they don't know that Zac's here, or it could let Zac think, they're clearing out the pink ward, it might be a counter game. Because they did just see now, though, Skarner walked through his Raptors. They're going to walk over ward. They know that it would have been a 3v2, but they're too healthy, honestly.
Yeah,
too
they
healthy,
really are.
close to the turret, pushing it in. They're just going to take this opportunity to get a nice base window to buy some items. There's a BF sword there for Xayah. That's going to help them push even more, and you can see pushing into the turret is actually netting them a CS advantage in the bottom lane, helping them to get to the point where Xayah will be able to shred whomever she has to on the front line that would come out from USC. But USC, honestly, they're breathing well. They've got Maokai keeping up in CS in top lane. That was different from last game. And then, of course, Corki keeping up as well. These are champions that will serve better in the late game to their composition, I think more so than a Gnar and a Galio will do, because if you have a really fed Corki in the late game, he's going to delete people. That kind of damage can get nasty, and so 50 to 50 in the mid, and you can see as Sivir shows up, she's going to be able to pick up the last bit of her CS, but remember, she still has to base, so she might miss a full wave when she does so.
And good timing there from ASU to get that first base, get the BF sword, because sometimes you have to base and you can only get that pickaxe, but they've kept the pressure up, they kept the CS up, and they get that full BF sword. And now the damage difference between these two carries is monumental. BF sword is so much. It's so important to get as early as you can, because that's what's going to get you the winning fight. And now we do see it answered there on the side of Sivir.
This
that is
going to be an engage, though. Zac does force the flash.
Perfect flash there, but then the ultimate from Cat does pull him back. All that extra damage from the W, and first blood coming to Cat on the Gnar.
Yeah, really nice flash there from Nephiloid to avoid the primary engage, but double crowd control ultimates are going to do enough for you there, where it's just going to end up being too much of that slow, the root, the knockback, all that kind of stuff. The pull in, nice scoop there from the Gnar is going to pull him in, giving enough time for Gnar to deal the damage. And that's going to be first blood going over to the Gnar, meaning he's going to have a lot of gold in his pockets.
This might be a fight. There's the engage from Corki. First 2 hits of concussive blows are there, but Galio is in with his ultimate, no knockup. In goes Zac. Now it's going to be a 4v4. Teleport from Gnar. Does not get the slow from the boomerang, but it's just completely disengaged. Nobody dies yet.
Okay, Maokai cancels his teleport. That tells you that USC says we disengaged well enough. We're fine. We got a couple of summoner spells. We got the flash out of the Braum. He felt a little scared when the fight started. We got a little something for it. We forced a teleport from Gnar. We tried to answer, but Maokai does a smart thing. He cancels his teleport, giving him a reduced cooldown. They'll have teleport advantage for what could be the next fight. Perhaps something sooner will happen, but they'll have teleport advantage in that top lane for the next little while here, and Maokai able to pick up a couple extra CS by getting to the lane early. He'll shove this into the turret. Gnar makes it just in time, but honestly, a well-played fight by both sides. No actual casualties, but it ends up being pretty safe for both these teams. Nice disengage.
I think that a lot of that disengage, we could have seen a lot more aggression, just like this right here. Bako is in. Breezy gets 2 out of the 4 hits. That's going to be a stun onto Tarek. And then the knockup, the Glacial Fissure does not land, and they make it out safe, but it looks like Sivir wants to keep going in. They do stop there. Skarner is in the wings, but I don't think they're going to make another play.
Yeah, it was a little bit too slow, a little bit forced. They were coming in from out of vision. Zac started it out pretty well, but there wasn't the key spells necessarily used instantly. If you're going to try and catch out a Taric who's relatively tanky, you have to use all of your spells and not just save them, especially when you believe yourself to have a numbers advantage, and they did at the front end. So I want to see Zai using her ult aggressively, Braum using that ult aggressively, rather than to try and catch him on the tail end, underneath his turret, after he flashes. I think, unlike them, could have flashed a little bit earlier, but he holds on to it for as long as he feels he can, which you can't fault him for either. I just want to see ASU, I feel like they just misplayed a little bit there. Ooh, nice package play, though.
The package is there, but it only gets them in range to get a couple auto attacks. Breezy and Shui are already out of it. You know, great disengage there, able to dodge out that big engage thing that we talked about. That package is huge. It deals a lot of damage, gets a great path for your team to follow, and now it's gone. It's gone for the next several minutes. It was a nice attempt, though, I want to say.
Yeah, I think it is up to Nevermind here to dictate the early game here. Unfortunately, the blue does get stolen away. They did see that they had committed the resources down to the other side of the map. They had already secured their own blue. So nice steal from ASU. But Nevermind here, nice package play. He forces a lot of pressure into the bottom lane. You're going to see that wave crashing, giving Sivir a little bit closer to catching up in that CS. And Sivir doing really well, keeping up in CS despite being pushed underneath her turret the entire match up to this point. So nice play from all these players coming through. Since the first blood, it's been relatively quiet.
Yeah, a lot of that, I think, has to do with a little bit earlier we saw a massive lack of vision as compared to the first game. Now it's all been placed out while I've been wanting to say it. Now it's all everywhere. But I like the distinct difference between where it is. USC is all about the bottom lane because that's where they're going to need to put their attention next, whereas all of ASU is in the top side. It's amazing to see how these teams are deciding to focus, to put their next picks where they already had advantage and where they need it. Gnar is ahead 20 CS again and has that first blood gold, doing really well, just like last game.
Yeah, and they're playing slow, methodical play at this point. You can see, you mentioned the vision, Ben, where there's pink wards, 4 of them on the map here for ASU, and there were just about that many until just moments ago for USC. It's been the fact that there's lane priority for ASU allows them to push into a turret, back off, try and track down some of the wards, and clear them out. And that's what happened here in the bottom lane just moments ago, is you saw that Breezy here and Shui, they were able to push into the turret just like this, and then it takes some time for Sivir and Tarek to try and clear this underneath their turret, and during that time you can have Shui and Breezy walk through the river, try and track down some wards, and that ended up netting them the ward kill on the pink ward that's in Tribrush, allowing them to keep vision where it's going to try and get contested once again. Unlike them, I like that he keeps a couple of pink wards, control wards, however you want to call them, in his inventory. That's really smart because he knows that if we're pushing our turret, if we're ever going to want to gank them, I'm going to have to replace that. And you can see, push in, come contest the vision, clear out the pink ward, but they might be getting caught here. Skarner's getting pretty close. The stun comes through, but this is a little forced, I think.
It is a little forced, especially popping the ultimate there. There's no engage at that point. Corky's nowhere close. Skarner's too far away. Braum had the Unbreakable up. I think that was a wasted opportunity there.
Yeah, and that's a really long cooldown, so you're going to need to see USC playing really, really carefully on the bottom side of this map with that long cooldown not being available to them. That invulnerability can do work in a team fight. We talked about how it would be one of those key conditions to bring back or start a fight, especially with the Skarner. Now, the Skarner was close. I think it was just unfortunate that they didn't have the communication available, but Skarner getting a Scuttle Crab might be getting caught here.
Oh, he's going to have to flash the wall. Gets out immediately, but that means this Drake is definitely going the way of ASU.
And it's luckily for USC, it's just a Cloud Drake, not something worth giving your life for. And I like the decision by Jimmy Rustling to just nope out, right?
Yeah,
he says,
get out of there.
I recognize I'm getting caught. I finally see that I'm getting collapsed on. I'm not going to try and take a little bit of a trade here or try and stand my ground. I'm going to get out scot-free. And so, he's forced to use his flash. Unfortunate, but that's the kind of vision play. That's ASU saying we have superior vision control. You don't realize you're getting caught out until it's to the point where you're going to have to flash.
Now, ASU played out the last 3 minutes or so very, very well. We can see that Cat's Gnar has his teleport back up. That means during the entire time that teleport priority was on the Maokai, they stayed safe enough that there was no good engage. In fact, they had a couple of fights that could have worked out, blowing ultimates like Tarek's Cosmic Radius, blowing the flash on the Skarner, all these things adding up to where now there is no teleport advantage. In fact, if there is an advantage, it's definitely on Cat because, in Maokai versus Gnar, trying to decide who's more effective in a team fight and in a split push, it's definitely going to be Gnar. Look at all this damage.
It's nice heal there from the Maokai, but you can see the ranged advantages is going to give Cat on the roof a lot of pressure. He can push in a little bit faster still. The Black Cleaver gives him much stronger trading potential, and like you said, with those two teleports back up, we could see explosive fights. But up here near the top lane, it looks like there's going to be a package use onto the Gnar. He's forced to back off. Getting rather low, though, because, yes, he has Black Cleaver that gives him a lot of trading potential, a lot of damage, but it doesn't give him a lot of resist, let alone the hybrid damage that's going to come through.
And then we see an engage on the bot side, taking the kill onto Wig 5. Now there's only one left. Oh, the ultimate comes off just before he goes down. We're going to need to have to take another look at that after we see this engage here. Death by Zerg is going to get caught by the ultimate, never mind dealing a lot of damage, getting the damage reduction from the W, and then Justice punching out. Death by Zerg disengaging perfectly.
Yeah, I want to see a little bit more aggressive play, though, on something that just evolved right on your screen here. If you're going to use your ultimate on Skarner onto Death by Zerg, you're going to want to stand in front of him. Oh, nice taunt.
Flashing away from it, but the stretching strike, not able to get the full stun there, but nice land on it. Good.
Yeah. You get taunt, you're definitely going to have to flash away, especially if you see that the Zac Shadow shows up, so nice choice. But let's get a replay of what happened bottom lane. We'll see how that kill came through. You can see Wig 5 here. The stun does come through at the last frame. He had flash and heal available, but he didn't expect to have to deal with the root, and so that comes through. The stun doesn't happen for the Tarek, and the Cosmic Radiance, a little bit of a last-second decision, kind of panic choice, and it won't be enough to stop him from dying. I think if he has Cosmic Radiance come through, he might actually be able to return a kill,
I agree.
but I didn't get to see if he had the cooldown available sooner, and if it wasn't, he just can't ever channel it sooner, and so he's going to miss out on that ability. I think you just hold it if you know that you're not going to channel it in time, but hopefully the next few fights will show us more of the team fight 5v5 between these two teams so that we can see which of these two compositions are better suited to that.
And now, the next thing we need to talk about is look at Sivir and Tyrek here on the minimap. They are roaming up the top where they need to be, but we might have to talk about that later. No engage here in the middle. But again, game number 2, they are late on the rotation. Once the bot lane gets the turret, you gotta follow them. Here comes the ultimate from Maokai and the ultimate from Galio. Disengage perfect there, running right into the stun from Taric, and now the taunt is in. There's the stun onto Nephaloid, throwing Taric in, and that's a kill onto the Taric. There's a stretching strike pulling him back in, and another kill for the side of ASU. That there is a 2 for 0 so far. Zach going in. Don't want to take the boomerang blade. They might be able to take this turret, but they are really low, and Corki does a lot of damage. In comes Skarner. He's running up really fast, just a punch away. There's a chilling smite, a good wallop, and Gnar is in trouble. Gnars them away, but never mind. Does get the kill in the end.
Yeah, a little bit of a slow rotation there by a couple of members. The Maokai's already there. You don't expect his teleport to come through. The Corki was a little bit slow moving, coming in with his teleport, and then by the time his teleport completes and he shows up to the fight, he's a key member, right? He's a lot of their damage. He does end up netting himself one of those kills, but let's see the timing of the different parts of the engage of this fight. You can see there's the nice brambles, runs in. They kind of have a miscommunication where they back off, but nice stun from the Taric as the Galio comes in, and you can see Zach on the backside. He flashes in to bring Taric in. Remember, he doesn't have that Cosmic Radiance from that last fight in the bottom where he used it to try and survive. Now, a couple members have fallen, but never mind here. He's got a lot of damage, and you can see Sivir's going to get a little bit of wave cure. Zach goes a little deep, takes a lot of damage. He only has health, not a lot of armor at this point, and here's Skarner. Full health, smite to slow, and flash available. Nice dodge by Nevermind there. Really clean Corki play to not get rooted. And then, of course, nice pull there. That's going to get them a 2 for 1 overall, which, just considering how the fight started and the nice Galio return, that turned out pretty well for them. Ooh, but he's in kind of a tight spot here.
He gets stunned from the concussive blows passive and rooted from Xayah's pullback on those feathers. Braum gets stunned, but now concussive blows lands again. In comes Galio, gets a perfect taunt. Taric's going to go down again. Killing spree for Shui, and that might be a killing spree on Breezy as well. Super aggression from the support here on ASU, being right with his carry and getting all these kills, all this gold. It's looking fantastic.
Yeah, and once again, seems like a little bit of a miscommunication where Skarner gets a little bit caught, kind of backs off, but then unfortunately, either a misclick or miscommunication, Taric takes that blast plant over right when Skarner gets to the point where he's out for free. And then because Taric's trying to take the fight, then Skarner returns, and they end up both giving their lives up. Hopefully the communication issues can get cleared up before the next team fight, but right now it's got them behind about 7k gold, but that's going to be Sivir left alone without her support underneath the turret, and you can see that that ends up netting them one more kill here for ASU.
It's hard to fight someone who's ahead of you. Like, we can look at the item disparity here. 4, 0, and 3 on the Xayah has the Essence Reaver just like the Sivir, but has attack speed boots, a Zeal, and a couple more daggers. Just, it may not give you damage, but your DPS goes up. Damage per second. You can attack more times. You can get more damage out in a smaller amount of time. And now that is upgraded up into the Runan's Hurricane. Great spot for Xayah.
Yeah, but unlike the game we saw before, when ASU got ahead around this mark, they're not able to pressure that Baron so well, because there's just so much more wave clear that USC happens. But this is that catch onto Sivir. The Braum, Winter's Bite, he's just clean at catching those. Breezy, Winter's Bite, you know, you can feel that kind of slow coming through into the concussive blows getting procced. Shui with the extra attack speed that her W grants, and you can see her build is heavy attack speed. There's again.
I can't even say what happened because it was over. It was just a great concussive blows into the glacial fissure, and everyone around the map everywhere is dying. That looked like a solo kill, and now it's another one. That's a suppression on the Galio, but it's only for the next couple of seconds because the taunt comes out right after that Stinger has him suppressed. Just ASU, they weren't ahead that early. Spell Shield blocks the stun, but cannot block the damage from Shui. Those auto attacks ripping right through Sivir. And now the next fight is Becco onto Nevermind.
Might have actually saved his life, Becco, there, using the stretching strike to pull him back in, gets him out of range, actually, of Shui's ultimate, so the damage doesn't come through, and forces the flash out of the Corki, which is a really nice play. But it ends up being that this Braum play, 2-0 in 7, the bottom lane here, 6-0-3 for Shui here on Xayah. They're doing work. You can see how quickly Shui can not only proc the concussive blows for an additional root, but bring her own by pulling her feathers through. We'll see another replay here. This is going to be that fight. The Winter's Bite misses, but there's going to be one auto attack. The stun comes through, but there instantly is going to be crowd control after crowd control. The double route into knockup from the nice Glacial Fissure. Breezy there, even if he misses Winter's Bite, they're at the point where the concussive blows does enough for Shui, who has a lot of critical strike chance and a lot of attack speed to do enough damage to melt someone out.
The next thing we need to notice is USC got that Rift Herald, but they were not in a position to place it anywhere except to just rush a turret as it ran out of time. It is on the bot lane. Cat is going to take that out way before it deals any damage to the turret, and this is just a testament. This 10,000 gold deficit, 2 Cloud Drakes down, 10 kills down. There's not a lot for USC right now. And looks like another fight might break out here. It is in the favor of USC in terms of numbers, but are they behind it too much? No concussive blows proc, and it is a safe disengage. They didn't want to actually take the fight. You
know, but it was actually a decent amount of work done there by USC. They're finally grouping up. There's a fight in mid lane though.
And now Galio is trying to get away, but gets stunned. He has to pop the Hourglass. A great Glacial Fissure from Braum. Galio does end up going down, but Shui is back on the back line, just tearing everything up. Mega Gnar is going to be available. He jumps forward, he gets the wall up, and now he's going to Gnar her into the wall. There's a good stopwatch, but it's only going to delay the inevitable. Another quadra kill for the ASU AD carry. 2 in 2 games.
Yeah, nice team fight play there. Really nice stopwatch use there by Zerg. He does kind of get caught, and his heroic entrance gets canceled by the crowd control that does come through, but the way he plays the rest of the fight buys him just a couple extra seconds for his team, though he dies on the front end. It buys enough time for Gnar to show up behind everyone, stack up the Mega Gnar, and clean up the fight at the end there. You know, Sivir was free hitting for quite a while, and her positioning was pretty good until she was forced to reposition, but Gnar's teleport and where he chose to show up was perfect because Sivir had nowhere else to go.
And now we are going to see the beginning of this fight. Oh, it looked like the Cosmic Radiance is there. That's why they went in. Everybody got hit, but Let's Bounce takes 2 people out of the fight. What a beautiful ultimate there from Beko. He gets all the crowd control. No one is on Shui. Everyone's trying to fight the front line, peel for their carries, and it's just not enough. The perfect wall up there into the Gnar. And beautiful play here, getting Shui even further ahead. It's so good. That quadra kill twice in a row.
Yeah, really, really well played by the Xayah on that team fight. Getting a lot of damage out. Now up 10-0-3. A deathless game for her so far. She's completed 3 core items on top of her Tier 2 boots and now has lifesteal to boot. There's not enough tankiness on the front line to deal with this here, as it looks like, unlike them, might be getting caught again. The stun doesn't hit. Unbreakable will be blocking out everything else. The Brambles come through, but this is multiple members getting caught once again. The Baron was already taken, and there's a double kill. Now 12 kills out of 16 are on Shui here. Really nice play, clean catches, and this is the vision control that when you're up this much gold, we're approaching that close to 20K mark once again, that it means you have the gold in your inventory to purchase multiple control worlds on multiple members of your team and pressure in. And even if someone gets caught at the beginning of a fight, like Zerg did in that 2 fights ago, you still have enough damage to make
it. And here is the next fight. The ultimate lands on the Corki. Corki goes down. Skarner goes down. That's a 2-for-nothing trade, and they don't even care. They're going to take a turret and an inhibitor off of that. Zach. Oh, Beko really lining up these plays. Meanwhile, on the bot side, Gnar has already pushed in that wave. They're going to get another turret.
They will get another turret here, and it's possible that they might want to take the next wave with them, ride it in, look for the Nexus turrets. Again, we're 26 minutes in here, but that 20,000 gold lead has been accrued. They're going to back off, play it slow and steady to try and win this race. And again, this is a best of 3, but ASU is up from game 1. This could be match point if, as it's looking like it'll turn out, they can close this out and win game 2 for a 2-0 victory in this best of 3. They're looking pretty clean at this point. Let's look at that fight in mid once again.
And it's just a perfect engage. Zach jumps in with that slingshot, gets the pull in with the stretching strike, gets the damage, and there's just nothing poor Sivir can do in that case. Just perfect play from Beko. Didn't even need to flash. Of course, it is down, but he just gets right in there and gets it. And that 3rd Cloud Drake. That's
third Cloud Drake. And actually, that'll do work for them. It means, as you can see, Breezy can just run around. It's a breeze to get around the Summoner's Rift. It'll help them rotate very quickly, especially if they were to secure another Baron, or even if they just want to bait out rotations that will be poor for USC, they get to move very, very quickly. That's a lot of movement speed out of combat from those 3 Cloud Drakes that can allow them to push in this top lane and then say, okay, our minions are here, let's go into the mid or the bot, and be able to have even Gnar show up very quickly to team fights despite him pushing on that bottom side. You can see Baron will last only slightly longer as they're trying to push in the last inhibitor on this top side. The team fight is going to have to go very, very well in favor of USC if they don't want to lose here. That's a lot of damage. The Xayah here, you can see, with that much critical strike chance, she doesn't need the armor pen when she's this far ahead. And you can see she has a QSS as well. Completed Mercurial. This is a fight, though.
All of the crowd control there onto the main tank. But will we see the Cosmic Radiance does go down, does not save Maokai, but might save Tarek. There's a lot of damage, and now Skarner is going to be the next target. That is almost all of the team. Corki, the only one alive. They want him. They're going to jump in. They're going to do all the spells, but he does not go down yet. Cat going to keep him off the fight. They're going to take turret number 1. There's a jump in from Bako. Ooh, but the stopwatch, pull in those feathers. No root, but Breezy jumps in and has to flash out. 2-0 victory, Arizona State over University of Southern California.
Yeah, and that one's going to be all 11 turrets taken, too. Let's take one last quick look at that last fight and see how it just ended up going amazing. I mean, you're going to see a triple kill from this Zac.
It's a fantastic. All of the engage onto Maokai. Getting their front line out means that USC no longer has an option to go in and fight, but they do. They have to. This is the base. This is the win. That perfect flash right onto the Nexus turrets to get the taunt onto Sivir and Corki. Just so much engaged, so fast on these games. 26 minutes. Cheeky little stopwatch there. There was no reason to do that. Game was over, but, you know, good outplay, I guess.
Saving his KDA.
Yeah, save it. I liked the adaptations that we saw from USC, but we didn't need to see an adaptation from ASU, and they showed it. That was just another match of let's run away with this game, starting early and keeping it early.
Yeah, and they went with pushing their advantages. They want to say, we need to be a tanky front line with consistent backline DPS. And as soon as we can catch someone, we go hard at them. We make sure we take them down as quickly as possible and move on to the next objective. It's not that we're going to take long, extended fights and chase you through the river, chase you through the jungle. We're just going to catch who we do, take the next objective. I mean, you saw that one time where Skarner was in the river, gets collapsed on. They force his flash. What do? Do they flash over and chase him? Do they go and try and kill bottom lane because there's more members? No, it's that we take the Drake right now, move on to the next objective. Really clean play, honestly, from ASU, showing that they knew what their win conditions were coming into this evening and that they are willing to just play to their strengths, not go outside of their comfort zone, and they end up taking a convincing 2-0 over USC.
And congratulations to Arizona State for their victories here today. It was amazing to watch. Exactly what we talked about, all that engage. Amazing turnout here from Arizona State.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an incredible night, a lot of twists and turns in these different team fights, and it's been awesome to have you guys here with us tonight to witness it all. Before we sign off, let's take a look at the standings now after tonight's games. So we're going to have... That's a 2-0, meaning a one-match score goes for Arizona State. And you can see they're going to take that one-match win over USC, putting them up at the top of the standings as more matches will happen throughout this week. So we want to thank and let you guys know that before we go, all of these people involved in the production aspect of PACG, all of it from start to finish and everywhere in between has been put together by straight-up volunteers. Student volunteers, community volunteers, all of the staff running everything is volunteers. So shout out to all of them. Shout out to all of you guys for showing up, tuning in, participating in the chat, letting us know how hyped up you guys can be over this stuff. And if you subscribe to this channel, it helps to serve to ensure that this tournament runs as smoothly as possible and allows us to do more tournaments like this and better quality content in the future.
It is amazing. It's so much fun. Mondays and Wednesdays we're going to be here. We're going to be doing League of Legends. See all these teams, see their caliber of play, see if we can see more upsets and everything like that. And now we do see the score up there. Arizona State 1-0, 0-1 on USC. Oregon State and Utah, Oregon, Colorado, Arizona, and Washington State. They're going to be getting their games done and underway. And you can always tune in every single day to find out where your favorite team is on your favorite game.
Yeah, and on your screen you can see Wednesday at 7 MST, 6 PST. It's going to be Oregon State taking on our very own University of Utah here on this same channel. Again, this is Pacific Alliance of Collegiate Gamers. You can follow it at twitch.tv/PacificACG, and you can, of course, follow the Pacific Alliance of Collegiate Gamers on Twitter and Facebook by that same handle. Again, Pacific ACG. We'll be back on Wednesday with more League of Legends action. And until then, my name is Jake, Superman Mori. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Twitch by the handle SupermanCasting, or check out my website, supermancasting.com.
And I'm Ben Juhadre Sorensen. At Juhadre on Twitter, Facebook, and other places. Go ahead and hit me up.
Yeah, and that's it for us. You can also check out Overwatch tomorrow. League of Legends is going to be Wednesday, but tomorrow is going to be Overwatch, again, between these exciting teams from everybody here. All of these teams, as the part of the PACG, are from the Pac-12. So if you're a fan of the Pac-12 action for traditional sports, this is our esports action finally coming your way. Again, same channel, Pacific ACG. Overwatch tomorrow, League of Legends on Wednesday, and more later in the week that you can check out on this same channel in the evening. So that's it for us here live at the historic Einar Nielsen Fieldhouse in Salt Lake City at the University of Utah. We'll see you tomorrow, but for now, it's good night and game on.